Hello everyone, this will be the 9th chapter of The Growing Pains of Child Soldiers by Bloodwolf 13, read by Insect Overlord. This chapter is titled 1 Week, Part 2. Monday, 14 days after the reveal. The press conference. She gets home just before 1 a.m., exhausted and feeling the need to just sleep till next week, even if it's Monday. She has so many things to do today. She has to see what the news are going to say about this battle. Lately, they have been more concerned about them getting hit, and a magically enhanced park bench is a pretty painful thing to get hit by. She also needs to see if there is any footage of Cat Noir getting hit, then go to the school and try not to fall asleep and deal with the class's usual madness. Come home, help her parents, do her homework, review her speech for the press conference, and try to take a power nap. Then, she and Kat will meet up at 6:30 p.m. on the Eiffel Tower and put a video out online announcing that they will do a press conference at 7 p.m. near the Eiffel Tower. Do the press conference and answer a few questions. Come home and try and fail to relax. See the fallout from the conference and go to sleep. That's only the things she knows that she needs to do. It's not counting akumas or surprise visitors. She really wants to hide in her bed and ignore the world. 15 years old and you already have the responsibilities of the world on your shoulders. A dark voice laughs sadistically to her. The past few weeks have been torture to the point you have become a paranoid mess that spent her birthday party jumping at noises. Your parents, your friends, and Cat Noir can see that something is wrong. You can try to hide and ignore the feelings, but the truth will always come out. Shut up. Shut up. Why? Aren't you the one that hates liars? You've been lying to yourself for weeks, trying to prove that everything is all right, while you get more and more paranoid, get stuck in your head, and lose all hope that things will be better. You refuse to acknowledge your problems and then tell yourself to shut up. The voice laughs at her. She has no energy left to tell it to shut up. It's not lost on Marinette how she's never told the voice it's wrong. She either ignores it or tells it to shut up. She can't accept what is being whispered, because if she does, how will she deal with it? How will she deal with being tired and broken? How will she deal with fighting Hawkmoth? How will she deal with the pressure she feels? How will she deal with her feelings? Or, worst, how will she deal with the fact that this is it, the thing that sticks with her? What if defeating the villains and winning won't fix her? Is she just destined to break? Marinette, are you okay? Tikki asked, breaking her out of her mental meltdown. Of course, the miraculous cure healed me. No pain at all. She does some circles with her right arm to prove the point. Tikki looks at her with a concerned stare and makes Marinette think she was asking about something else. Another thing she refused to discuss. Tikki is perfectly aware that Marinette is struggling and has tried to talk about it. Yet, Marinette refuses, and Tikki's not a pushy Kwami. Marinette knows she can't keep pushing this away, because Tikki might be patient, but she's not about to let Marinette drown. I'm tired, Marinette says, hoping to avoid this conversation. I know, Tikki whispers softly, but you're not all right. I've tried to give you space, but you're not coming to me. My chosen aren't obligated to tell me everything, but Marinette, you're struggling badly. You're losing sleep, and you're a lot more paranoid. You're also more hesitant to trust people, and worst of all, you're trying to ignore all of this. I'm fine. She can't see Tikki's reaction to her lie because her eyes are filled with tears. Marinette, Tikki sounds like she might cry. Can Kwamis cry? I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but you're not fine. You've started to disassociate. I'd heard it happening a few times before everything came out, but now it's so much worse. You can't keep burying your feelings. She has no answer to give Tikki, at least no answer that wouldn't hurt the Kwami. What does she say? Sorry, Tikki, that my mental health went to hell the second that I put on the Miraculous. It would be unfair to put that on Tikki, who also didn't choose this. Master Fu did. He chose you and Cat Noir to become heroes when you were barely teenagers. Maybe he thought it was okay because he started his training as a child, but that doesn't make it right. Why haven't you ever confronted him? Marinette, a soft, broken whisper calls her back to the present. Tikki looks at her with pity and desperation in her eyes. Marinette turns away. She can't stand that stare. I don't know what to tell you. I don't even know what I feel half the time. It's like, 1 minute I'm overwhelmed by everything, and the next I can barely feel anything because I'm so tired. Marinette is trying to share what she has been feeling lately. Tikki gives her a knowing look. You feel too overwhelmed by what you're feeling, so you shut down. You go internal. Marinette just nods. I can't risk akumatization. How would Paris survive? You try to bury your feelings so you don't get akumatized. Marinette, I get it, but this isn't healthy. If you sacrifice your mental health and stability to try to defeat Hawkmoth and Mayura, you'll lose. What am I supposed to do then? If I allow myself to feel all the worries I have, then there's risks of getting akumatized. If I push back and ignore what I'm feeling, I'm doomed to fail. She spits out bitterly. Tikki flies up and stands in front of her. Those are not your only options. I'm here. Cat Noir, who probably has the same issues, is here. You need to talk about what you're feeling. There's a risk, but you're more important, Marinette. Marinette chokes on her emotions. She can't get a word out. It's not lost on her that Tikki just told her to speak about her feelings, and the first thing she does is choke down her emotions. Marinette's first instinct has become to bottle up her emotions and hope they won't overwhelm her. It fails more often than not. Besides, there are other ways you can deal with this. Hawkmoth and Mayura have hurt all of Paris, but you and Cat Noir are their biggest victims. For that, I will never be able to apologize enough. It's not your fault. Tikki looks even more heartbroken. Oh, Marinette, it's also not yours. The actions of Hawkmoth and Mayura in Paris are not your fault. You can't try to carry that. You'll crack. I don't know how to deal with all this, Marinette whispers, so low, with her voice dripping with so much guilt that she might as well have confessed to murdering someone. Tikki kisses her forehead. I know, I'm so sorry, but I have dealt with this too many times, and I know how to help you. Please don't shut me out by telling me everything is fine when it's clearly not. I'll try. Her voice goes even lower. I'm tired, Tikki. So tired. I'm tired of fighting. This fight should never have happened and should have never been put in your hands, Tikki says with a sorrowful tone that Marinette has never heard coming off the Kwami. You are a wonderful ladybug, but I wish I would have met you under better conditions. I don't think we would have met under any other conditions. Your friendship to me is one of the best things that's ever happened. Besides, don't the Miraculous usually go to people at the beginnings of puberty? The holders of the Miraculous are better when they start young, this is a fact. Yet, most don't ever see battle before being fully grown, or are used more rarely like the part-time heroes. This is to ensure that they don't have to deal with too much too soon. Ladybugs and black cats always started younger than the other holders, but they were usually 16 or 18 before they were given the clear to become full-time heroes by the Guardians. You aren't the youngest ladybug I've had, but you are one of the youngest I had full-time. I didn't know, Marinette whispers, feeling lost. She is so tired. It's partially Master Fu's fault. He should have tried to train someone when he started getting older. He didn't, and I understand why, but that doesn't mean it didn't have consequences. You and Cat are currently suffering because of that. I don't think you should blame Master Fu. He couldn't have predicted Hawkmoth. I'm not. Hawkmoth and Mayura are the ones in the wrong. Tikki sighs. We're getting off topic. I want you to come to me when you're getting overwhelmed. Can you promise me that? Marinette smiles, and it feels so fake that her face hurts. I can. I promise. Tikki snuggles her cheek. Good. Now it's time for bed. It's late, and we can talk later. Marinette was already in her pajamas before the Akuma's attack. She just gets into bed and sleeps. It's not a peaceful slumber. She wakes up before the alarm clock rings, from a nightmare, completely exhausted and covered in sweat. Marinette just knows that today is going to be difficult. Or maybe she's just miserable about having to get up an hour before she needs to. Morning, Tikki, she grunts out at the sight of her Kwami. Good morning, Marinette. Bad dreams? She asks with a knowing look on her face. A weird one. I had a dream that the Eiffel Tower got akumatized because akumas kept destroying it. Tikki just looks at her. Anyway, I think I'm going over my speech now, and we'll try to take a power nap when I get home. You're going to see the public's reactions regarding the last akuma? Marinette nods. Yes, I'll see it while I eat breakfast. She reviews the small statement she's going to give today and checks her messages. No one had texted her. It's still too early. She decides to take a shower and go see what the news is saying about them. Marinette sighs in frustration. There are too many things to do today. You'll be fine. One task at a time, and it will be over soon. Tikki encourages her. She goes down the stairs to the kitchen. This week, her parents are busier than usual to compensate for having taken the weekend off. As a result, they won't have a lot of free time. Marinette decides to just eat breakfast with Tikki. She turns on the TV. Nadia Shimak is giving a briefing on the akuma from last night, and it shows the footage captured by the helicopters. Marinette is not really surprised they got footage of her getting hit by the bench, since they were basically glued to them from the beginning of the fight. The footage is tough to watch. It clearly shows her running to save the little boy and pushing him out of the way. He falls pretty hard, and Marinette winces. He's fine, Tikki says. The miraculous cure healed him, and hard falls don't compare to getting hit by a park bench. She smiles at Tikki and gives her a macaroon. I know, it's just hard to watch. In more ways than one. Marinette didn't realize last night, but when she got hit by that bench, she literally flew back 200 meters, 650 feet. She must have been airborne for at least 10 seconds. She hit the ground so hard that the car next to her was left shaking and beeping. The crater that was left behind was big in both length and depth. You could actually hear from the recording the impact that she made, which would explain why everyone was so freaked out seeing her get up. She looks to Tikki in search of a way to complete the sentence. It looks bad. The suit protected you from the impact, but that doesn't mean you weren't hurt. Tikki looks up at her with big, worried eyes. Miraculous cure, remember? She teases the Kwami. Sure, that hurt like hell, but she's fine now. Tikki smiles at her, and they keep watching. She only takes a few seconds to open her eyes, and from the recording you can clearly tell that she's groaning. Thankfully, you can't really tell that she's in pain. It looks more like she's groaning because she got hit. Since there are no wounds on her, it seems like she's shaking off the attack. The moment Ladybug gets on her elbows and sees the street, you can tell that she's panicked a little, getting up faster to show that she's all right, even if she swayed a little on her feet. But that could be associated with being disoriented and having to get up fast. Cat Noir's scream came almost immediately after, and the footage caught her response. From this recording, she could see that the civilians and officers that heard her reply visibly relaxed. She focuses back on what Nadia is saying. Both Ladybug and Cat Noir were hit last night by the akuma. Marinette almost groans. Where was the footage of Cat Noir? They both seem fine and carried out fighting. Another reporter adds, that might be because the suits protect them from injury, but they must have been in pain. I mean, hits like that must be painful. Michael, the science guy, was back. Hits like that are fatal. If a normal person got hit by that park bench, thrown at that speed, pardon the image, but there wouldn't have been anything left of them. They would have been in literal pieces. Cat Noir's hit would have taken off the leg. They split the screen in two and show Cat getting hit. She was right. It was almost immediately after. He made a move to go after her, but the Dechi Akuma picked up a rock and aimed it at the kid. Cat Noir, like her, didn't even hesitate. He picks up the kid, gets hit in the knee, and is thrown off balance. Still with the kid in his arms, he does an acrobatic flip mid-air and lands on the unhit leg. Puts the kid on his back and uses his baton to reach the police officer faster, passing the kid off. Cat Noir picks up a few rocks and throws them at the Akuma to distract him, while the cops and the kid get away. While distracting the Akuma, he runs back into the building and screams for her. The moment she answers back, you can literally see the stress and worry vanish out of his body. I think your hit was worse, Marinette, Tikki tells her. Yeah, but that doesn't mean Cat wasn't in pain. I mean, that Akuma was stupidly strong. Marinette frowns, looking back at the TV. It's funny, although they're focused on us getting hit, they're more focused on us getting hurt or not. They've never seen you bleed, and hopefully never will. Tikki pauses for a second, worried. They aren't sure how much that could have hurt you. A hit like that would have hurt a normal person, but you two didn't show any signs of pain. Tikki looks at Marinette with a judgmental stare. What was she supposed to do? Show the amount of pain she was in to make the public worry? She gives Tikki a look back. Tikki just sighs. The Akuma only hit you two. Everyone else was fine. They aren't sure how much that hurt you, and since you were healed less than 10 minutes later, the public is confused. They also focused on if you can get hurt when hit, instead of having to think about the amount of times you and Cat Noir might have gotten hurt. Okay, fair enough. She smiles. That means no damage control needed. See? One less thing to do. Tikki gives her a brilliant smile. Marinette makes herself a cup of tea to go, even if she is pretty sleepy. The amount of coffee she would need would be huge, and going to class jittery is not something she likes. Not to mention, Tikki and Alia would annoy her for the massive consumption of coffee. Good morning, Marinette, her mom calls out as she enters the room, and Tikki hides in her jacket. Good morning, Mom. I thought that you and Dad would be busy with the bakery. She would have eaten with her parents if she knew they would come up. One of the part-time helpers we hired agreed to help out the rest of the week. She's a very nice girl. Her mother tells her about the new helper and how they are considering hiring someone full-time. It also means that she won't have to help them later in the day. At school, things are back to normal. Although, after today with their statement, tomorrow will probably be chaotic. Her teachers are still a little on edge with the news, but none of them looks like someone kicked their puppy anymore. Marinette takes that as a win. Things were starting to look up when, at the end of the morning, someone pissed off a student at the end of the hall. Normally, if there was an Akuma attack while she was at school, it happens, but it's not that common. They're supposed to go to the gym area and stay there. There's a certain order in how things are done. When the attack is at school, the order goes to hell. Depending on the class and the akumatized person, you have everyone running out and screaming. Her class, which at this point is made out of almost every superhero in the city, actually calms down and exits calmly. Miss Bustier tries to lead them towards the back exit, but the Akuma rounds the corner and the class scatters. Marinette takes advantage of that to transform, and Cat Noir shows up not even a minute after that. It's close to 2 hours before they finally defeat the Akuma and things go back to normal. Since most of the students had to run and had scattered, it was difficult to round up the students for classes again, especially since they all skipped lunch because of the Akuma. By the time things were back to normal, Marinette had one class left, and the teacher just sighed and dismissed them. Probably a good idea, since most of the students were both tired from running around and hungry. Not a good combination when trying to teach someone. Most of her class ate at her house. In fact, most of the school, students and staff, snacked at the bakery. The pro of a day like this is no homework. A few teachers send them things to read and review it in class so they don't fall behind, but they usually prefer not to overwhelm the students. If it happens a lot, they usually did little pop quizzes to make sure the students weren't falling behind. Considering that the Akuma attacks couldn't be predicted and students were almost always disturbed by one, it was a good system. The con of a day like this is that it isn't an off day for her. She just spends the day fighting an Akuma, and if it's early in the morning, she might have the afternoon classes, although those are lighter classes. Today, she has little sleep, no coffee, and still had a press conference to give. She had hoped that the class would distract her from that. No such luck. Instead, she just spends the day battling an Akuma in her school. When Alia asked if she wanted to go do something, Marinette didn't even try to lie to her friend, just told her that she was going to take a nap. It also gave Marinette an alibi for when Alia would inevitably call her about the press conference. At 6 p.m., she woke up still feeling like she was hit by a tractor, but the alarm and Tikki made sure she got up. A special mix later, coffee and Red Bull, she was off to meet Cat Noir. She arrives at the tower with a couple minutes to spare, but Cat is already there. "Hello, my lady." He does a little bow, choosing to start the dramatics. Hi, Kat. Ready? Positive. They record a short video and post it online, basically calling an impromptu conference on the street. Although the police knew they were planning to speak with the public this week, possibly today, they didn't know how or where. Want to go to Andre's for ice cream, Bugaboo? He's down the street. Cat Noir winks his eye at her. No, we don't have time for that. Plus, I don't want to be here when the press starts to arrive. It could be challenging. As you wish, my lady. Ladybug and Cat Noir arrive back at the Eiffel Tower 5 minutes before 7 p.m. Cat Noir has 2 water bottles with him, and Marinette asks about that. Cat Noir winks and tells her to take a sip if she needs a minute to think. Marinette knows that Cat is more comfortable in front of the cameras than she is, and she gets the feeling it's because of something in his personal life. They had agreed on a dozen signs for this, in case something unexpected happens, all Cat Noir's suggestions. The police had set up a perimeter, and the news crews were all organized and ready. Dozens of cameras were pointing at them. Someone had built a podium for them to stand. Marinette had no idea how they had done that so fast. A lot of civilians were on the streets looking at them, probably curious about what they were going to say after 2 weeks of silence. She looks up at Cat Noir, who is also staring at the crowd. He notices her and nods. It's time to go. They jump down and stand on the podium. She takes the lead. Good evening, Paris. We've asked you here to give you a full statement regarding the events that have happened over the last 2 weeks. Cat continues. We will disclose our talk with the police department, and we will reveal a little of why we were chosen. Some people get excited at the second part, and Marinette smiles. That being said, we will be limited on what we can inform you on that front, due to the risk that Hawkmoth and Myura currently represent. We don't want any more clawful enemies. We'll also answer a few questions that you might have. Just be sure that they're reasonable. Don't ask me the color of my socks. That's just offer. A few chuckles could be heard from the crowd. So the first thing is the conversation we had with the police department about their offers. They already told you that we accepted the help that they offered for a new patrol plan. We had a meeting with them last week, and the officers were very helpful. They actually gave us a lot of good advice and suggestions. We obviously won't be discussing what they are, but we're still very thankful for them. Marinette pauses and looks at the reporters. Alia is in the mix, and Marinette makes a mental note to answer at least one question from her best friend. At the request of the police department, we'll be informing the police when we patrol, but we'll be doing this in a way that Hawkmoth and Myura won't be able to predict any patterns. We'll choose random officers on the street during patrol and just to inform them that we're out there. We won't give them more information because it could fall into Hawkmoth's hands. A few journalists make notes on that statement, and Marinette has a feeling they might ask more about it. Originally, she wasn't going to mention this part, but when the chief commissioner decided to inform all of Paris, it left them with no other options. Cat Noir agreed that they needed to say something about it, but there was still a risk. They agreed on telling the public that the selection will be random and that there won't be a schedule for it. All of it will be random. On the second offer, we informed the police we would be willing to talk with them, but we wouldn't reveal a lot about the magical aspect. They understood why, and I'm sure you will also understand. It's the danger of information falling into the wrong hands. Maybe they will be Hawkmoths or someone else. This is also the only statement we will issue about this point. Not only is the police investigation a secret, we don't want to accidentally tip off Hawkmoth. Cat adds for good effect. We won't be chatting too much. It could be a catastrophe. A few laughs were heard, but Ladybug just sighs. Finally, we decided to refuse the final offer for therapy. We talked about it and decided it wasn't needed. We both acknowledged that therapy is very important, and in some cases fundamental for an individual to function. We don't need therapy at this stage, and we understand that the offer might not be permanent, and that's all right. In any case, I don't believe specialized therapy is what we would need. It's a dig at the commissioner's comments after the police helped them. It's not an attack on the police force, but it will give the chief commissioner some trouble. It will also hopefully send the message that they don't need therapy, but that's more of a long shot. No one can force them into therapy. Almost all the professionals she has seen speaking about this have said that it would be bad. At the same time, the public can still worry about their mental health and argue with the decision, but since they don't want to pressure them too much, they back off. Them being teenagers is actually a good thing here, since teenagers aren't exactly famous for responding well to being pressured. It's a subtle balance, but they have an advantage. She nods at Kat to start his part. I got the short end of the stick. He swirls his baton, and have to do the dreadful part of explaining the magic while being sneaky. The cat in me is ready for the challenge. As Ladybug said last time, we told you we were chosen for a reason, and that's true. He smiles, and Marinette can feel the frustration coming from the crowd for him to continue. She feels a little vindicated that the audience finally knows what it's like dealing with Cat Noir when he is in a I'm very funny mood, at the worst moment possible. The Miraculous are the jewelry that we use. You know those things Hawkmoth spends the days demanding like a second-rate drama queen? I mean, has the guy ever heard of private property? Like, why do you have to steal, dude? Just get a job. I mean, he must be unemployed if he... Cat, they get it. She decides to spare the crowd, who seem to be growing more agitated by Cat Noir telling them jokes instead of what they want to hear. He pouts. Okay, let's forget Hawkmoth and appalling catitude for the meowment. So the thing you have to know is that we were chosen because our Miraculous resonate well with our souls. What does that mean? I have no idea. The crowd looks confused. Well, I do a bit. Like, my Miraculous and Ladybug's are the Miraculous of destruction and creation, which means I have a chaotic soul and my lady is a creative type. It would explain my love for being a wildcat and her brilliant plans. The better our soul alignments, the better is the outcome of the miraculous powers. It's pretty complicated, and if a Miraculous is used with bad intentions, like Hawkmoth and Myura are doing, it could have clawful results. He pauses and looks thoughtful. In that line of thought, Queen Bee actually got lucky in being akumatized on her first outing. It could have been a catastrophe, especially if the Bee Miraculous hadn't found a good balance in her soul. Miraculous aren't meant to be used for evil or for shellfish intentions. Not to mention the balance aspects of the things. It's clawful. He looks at her, and she knows that he's finished. It was a good speech. Not only did it bring attention to Hawkmoth and Myura's actions having negative consequences, he sounded like the magical aspect, even for him, was complicated. It was a stroke of genius letting him handle that part. The public would have expected her to be more careful and informative while talking, while from him they expected a lot of jokes and puns, and that's what he gave them. Cat Noir knows how to work a crowd a lot better than she does. Not for the first time, Marinette thinks of the ease he has dealing with the media. They agreed they would divide the questions put forward by the reporters, but depending on what was needed, Cat Noir would answer the difficult questions. He had the charisma and ease needed when talking with the press. We decided to do this press conference to inform the public of the outcome of our meeting with the police department. On the day of the Akuma, we were thinking of just giving a statement in the form of a video and posting it online. After all that happens, we believe this is more of a prudent solution. Cat Noir interrupts. Positive solution. Especially because some of you start to try to put up theories that left this cat in a catatonic state. Ladybug gives a slight twitch. Right, so one of the things that we've heard these past few weeks are questions about magic. As mentioned, we aren't going into that much detail, but there is something that we need to make clear. Even if Hawkmoth and Myura decided to use their Miraculous for evil purposes, it does not mean that the Miraculous is affecting their ability to think. She says the last part with gritted teeth. Cat Noir nods seriously. Ladybug is saying that a person's free will is not put into question by disturbing the balance of the Miraculous. Hawkmoth and Myura are doing this because they want to. We don't know why, but you have our guarantee. We will find out. They smile at the public and the media and hope that it gets the message across. They will not tolerate people coming up to them, feeling sympathy or pity for the villains. From the looks of the crowd, they don't have to worry. The crowd looks like they took their words to heart. She looks to Kat, who nods at her. Time for the questions. We will take some questions, but please keep them, she trails off, bearable. We won't kitten around with the weird questions. Meow. Let's get started. Dozens of reporters put their hands up almost immediately. Marinette doesn't even know where to start. Thankfully, Kat does. You with the cool sweater. It was a Save the Marine Life shirt. Well, hello there. Although the choice seems random, the reporter is part of one of the biggest news crews in Paris. Cat Noir was very smart in his choosing. Can we ask how you got chosen? Ladybug gives her an apologetic smile. Sorry, but that information is private. So is the choosing of the part-time heroes. We can tell you this. Every single person is chosen for a reason. We know that there are a lot of questions regarding the origin and magic of the Miraculous. That information is all private or unknown to us. The reporter nods. The woman doesn't seem to be upset at her inability to answer the question. It's like she was expecting this, but still tried to find out the information. Cat Noir keeps picking up several other reporters, since he has a knack for it. Some ask more than one question, but if they start pushing too much, Cat makes a pun and picks someone else. Most reporters are somewhat reasonable and stay within the topic. The ones that ask personal questions are usually on the receiving end of a pun. How involved do you expect to be with the police department? Asks an older, grizzly man. Cat takes the question. Perhaps a bit. I mean, we don't know how their investigation is going. We told the Cats in Blue that we might not answer all their questions. Another reporter fires a similar question. The chief commissioner insinuated that you were reluctant to give information about Hawkmoth and Myra. Can you tell us why he had that impression? Ladybug takes that one. We didn't talk with him in person. We have never met him, so I can't tell you why he might have that impression. We told the police we would help them the best we could, but to keep two things in mind. The first is something that has been said here a few times now. We won't disclose a lot of information about the magic. That said, there are some things we can tell them. It was decided we would talk with them and see what we could do. And the second thing? We might not know. We don't know all the information in the world about magic. There might be things we know that Hawkmoth doesn't, and vice versa. The police could have questions we might not be able to answer because we just don't know. We know a bit about magic, but we aren't perfect. When talking with the police, if we tell them some piece of information that's sensitive, it might be offer. We can't dare leave sensitive information in the wrong clause. Can you imagine the consequences? It would be too dangerous. Cat Noir picks Nadia Shamok next. We know your ages and Queen Bee's. There is some proof that other part-time heroes are also growing up. Will you disclose the ages of the part-time heroes? It's a question they have been waiting for. The part-time heroes and their status has been debated to death over the last few weeks. People don't know their ages, outside of Chloe, and most have assumed that they're also underage. Her first instinct was to tell the press that they're all adults, but that would bring too many questions. Why are all the part-time heroes adults and the main heroes teenagers? It would be too hard to explain. They decided to wait for the public's reaction. The problem was the public focused a lot more on her and Kat. This might be because their ages were actually confirmed. Sure, the part-time heroes' ages were a lot more suspect, but only Rena Rouge and Caprice were truly suspected of being minors. Chloe was confirmed, but most people were more focused on her father's reaction. The other heroes didn't have enough appearances, and King Monkey and Viperion were actually believed to be adults. That didn't mean their name didn't come up a lot, but considering the insanity that were the first few days, the part-time heroes were kind of a lesser topic. Also, since the magic was in effect, the part-time heroes' ages weren't the main topic. Ladybug and Cat Noir were. Chloe was brought up a lot due to being the only one without a secret identity and the mayor's daughter, but there wasn't a lot to say. The public figured out pretty fast that the Miraculous of the part-time heroes are returned to Ladybug and Cat Noir. Arguing if the part-time heroes should be teenagers or not would be useless.
After a while, they decided on telling the media that a few of them were underage, not specifying which, and that a few were adults. Ladybug smiles at Nadia. We aren't going to tell anyone their ages. It would be a breach of confidence. We can tell you that some of them are close to our age and some are older. How much older? Nadia asks. Cat Noir decides to take the reins. A couple of them are old enough to drink. It's half true. Master Fu is more than old enough. Luca's mother tells him to have a glass of champagne at parties since he's turning 17 soon. Marinette is also sure that a few of her friends have at least drunk beer or champagne to try it. Are they at least the legal age of 18? No, but the media and public doesn't know that. It's a weird way to put it, but since they're trying to avoid actually telling the ages, the public might not care. Cat smirks like a cat that ate the canary. Did you know that Ladybug here is the baby of the team? She scowls at the comment, even if they had previously agreed on telling the public she was the youngest one. That could have been phrased better. Some of the reporters are torn between finding her reaction funny and looking depressed at the news. Cat continues smirking. Yup, she's the youngest on the team. She softly elbows his side, not liking the way he put that, but still takes the opening he gives her. Like you're the oldest one. He puts a hand dramatically on his chest. Betrayed by my own partner. How will I ever recover? You'll manage. Cat looks over at the crowd and looks directly at Alia. Lady Blogger, do you have any questions that will leave this kitten feline better? Alia laughs at Cat's antics and asks, do you have any plans after defeating Hawkmoth and Myra? It's not a surprise that Alia decided to take those things away from the topic of the part-time heroes, but this question was completely different from what they had been asked so far. Cat looks at her, and the attention of the crowd focuses on her. They had talked about this before meeting with the police, but it didn't come up then. Still, the principle was the same. We talked a little about it, not in great detail, but the main plan is to take a break, go on vacation. I mean, if there's an emergency or something, we'll come to help. But we've been doing this for close to 2 years, and we'll be welcome to a break. Alia looks surprised with the news. What about the part-time heroes? Will they also take a break? Smooth, Alia. Real smooth. We can't talk for them, but they usually only show up when Akumas are around. With Hawkmoth and Myra defeated, things would be a lot slower. It would only be petty crime, and that's the police's job. Sure, we like to help them with it, but in the end of the day, the main reason we're out here is to stop supervillains. Cat pipes up. We would have to chat with them. Us, on the other hand, we already agreed to take a break. I mean, don't we deserve it? He put on his kicked kitten look, and the crowd melts. Alia laughs and doesn't look too worried about what they just told, even though Marinette is sure that her best friend will go home and reflect on what they said. Maybe the part-time heroes thought they would be gifted their Miraculous permanently after Hawkmoth's defeat. But what would be the point? She and Cat aren't even sure they will keep their Miraculous after the defeat, even if it's one of the most painful things that Marinette can think about. Her mocking voice is back. A great reward after years of trauma and hard work. Take one of your rocks away. Take Tikki away. Paris and Good will win, but somehow you'll still lose. You'll lose if you defeat Hawkmoth, and you'll lose if Hawkmoth defeats you. As usual, Marinette chooses to ignore that voice. Alia looks like she wants to ask a million more questions, but it wouldn't be fair for the other reporters, after she already asked 2 questions. Cat moves on to the next reporter that tries to ask about their mental health. Neither she nor Cat Noir want to talk about private thoughts. Thus, Cat makes a joke and moves on to the next reporter. What do you think of the mayor's and the other politicians' refusal to acknowledge you as child soldiers? That's a bomb of a question. Marinette isn't even sure why she's surprised. The media spent the last 2 weeks hounding every politician in the country about them. Why wouldn't they ask the heroes? She feels Cat bump his knee to her knee. It's one of their signals for how do you want to play this. She bumps back to let him know that she will handle it. That's a complicated question because we don't know if we see ourselves as child soldiers. The entire crowd goes quiet, and Marinette thinks she's screwed that up. But the reporter that made the question fires back another. Why do you think that? Ladybug shifts and takes a sip of her water. I actually looked up the definition of child soldiers when all this started, and I just don't think I fit that description. I completely agree, says Cat Noir. I know a lot of you think we're too young for this responsibility, and we won't argue with that. We already told you that we were chosen for a reason. We told you twice now. The point is, you're asking our personal opinions on a very weird matter. Do you believe your opinions may change as you grow? Another reporter asks. Maybe, Marinette answers. I mean, things change. Our perspectives on life change a lot due to experience. We can't tell you that tomorrow we won't reconsider this answer, especially because we find it odd to think about it. Cat sees that she's getting lost and jumps in. Ladybug is right, as always. Perhaps our opinion on the matter may change, but it's been weird seeing everyone discuss this on TV. Right now, we're going with we don't know what to think. It's the most accurate thing this cat can promise. The reporter looks like she's seconds away from another question, but Cat moves on. You, with the pink umbrella. Can you tell us why you were hurt by last night's Akuma when it hit you? Another unexpected question, but somehow they should have expected it, since today there were a lot of confusion about them getting hit. With the Akuma in the middle of the day, they didn't have a lot of time to discuss last night's hits. Cat Noir answers while she's trying to come up with her own answer. It was clawful getting hit by that rock, but it didn't really hurt that much. Our suits protect us from a lot of damage. We won't lie, it did hurt. But between the protection of our suits and the magic healing us, we are perfectly fine. He ends up purring the last word. Ladybug, you got hit by a park bench. The reporter winces at their own words. And thrown off the building. Do you agree with Cat Noir's testimony, or was it worse for you? Ladybug looks at the reporter. I agree with Cat Noir. There was some pain at first, but we were fine. The reporters don't look convinced, and with good reason, since it's not the full truth. They can't exactly say it hurts like a bee, but telling them they're fine and dandy is leaving the public doubtful. They can't risk the public thinking they're being untruthful or false. It would make this entire press conference a disaster. She sighs. Look, it was painful getting hit. We won't hide that. Any person that saw the hit could probably tell that. But these suits are magical. I was more disoriented by getting hit off the building than in pain. She chuckles. When I got up, I was more panicky that I got hit into a street full of civilians than in pain. Any residual pain also passed pretty quickly because the miraculous cure took care of that. We weren't in too much pain. If we got hit by that outside of our suits, we would be. Cat Noir finishes. Goners. Ladybug is right. As the member of the team that gets hit the most often, I can guarantee that these suits are magic. We never fight beyond our physical capacities, and we can assure you, trust us, we know our limits. The public seems a lot more convinced with that. Marinette is not surprised. After all, this is pretty close to the truth. By the way, we would like to ask you, the reporters, to stop pointing literal spotlights on us when we're fighting. Please keep your distance from the fight and follow police instructions. Yup, I know this cat looks good under any light, but during Akuma fights, we would prefer to remain covert. Marinette truly hopes it will stick this time. Looking at a few reporters, she can see that some of them took her words to heart, and might talk with their bosses. Hopefully, they'll be able to fight without spotlights following them everywhere. A beep comes from her yo-yo, and the crowd focuses on her. Perfect timing. She and Cat had set a timer to make sure this press conference wouldn't go on forever. It would give them a reason to have to leave without an Akuma attack. It was also Cat Noir's idea. Pardon me, we have to end this soon. We have a private matter to attend. Final questions, please keep them brief. The press explodes, screaming out questions. Cat picks up the reporters that haven't gotten a chance at asking any questions, which are only a few of them. One reporter asks what they need to do, and gets a short answer that it's a private matter. Final question, you, the lady with the possum shoes. She was wearing Cat Noir-themed shoes. The chief commissioner of the Paris Police Department recently showed his disappointment that you're going to lower-ranking officers for help. Can you tell us why you chose those cops and not the cops at the headquarters? The dig at the chief was not lost on anyone, and Marinette actually had to bite the inside of her cheek to stop from laughing out loud. It's simple. We knew a few cops from the Akuma attacks. We also know a few of the cops at the headquarters, but not the bosses. We felt more comfortable going to talk with cops that are often on our side and know us, rather than complete strangers. The cops keeping the line and the order in the crowd smile at her words and look thankful. Cat Noir smiles at the crowd and finishes the press conference. Well, that was the final question. We have to go. But we thank you for the cooperation from the crowd and for meeting us here on such a short notice. Good night, Paris. Marinette arrives home feeling great. From what she can piece together, the first response to their press conference is positive. The amount of information they told them is not completely new, and the magic, was actually pretty vague. But since they added things they had never talked about, the press is going wild. Specials have already been announced based on their statements. The general feeling that's coming out of the public is great. The civilians are a little happier now that the heroes have spoken. The police are on good terms with them. The media is happy to get this press conference considering they're normally unwilling to talk with the press, and the politicians have already capitalized on them saying that they're not child soldiers. The last part is one of the most talked about topics of the press conference. The comments are divided. A few think that the heroes are just in denial about their situation, or not ready to confront reality. Others have pointed out that the heroes weren't even sure what to think and admitted that their opinion may change and that they should give the heroes time. Then there were the ones of the opinion that underage vigilantism is not the same as child soldiers, which actually sparked a few debates. Informing them that she was the youngest person on the team and Cat wasn't the oldest had a weird effect. On one hand, people were even more stressed that she was so young, and that she and Cat had been doing this for the longest time. On the other hand, it reinforced the belief that she and Cat were choosing the part-time heroes, and that they were choosing older people. How old? They didn't know, but the heroes had implied that a few of them were at least adults, which relaxes a lot of people. It gave the impression that they had chosen at least some adults that could keep an eye on the kids. It left Marinette feeling oddly guilty to make the people of Paris believe the lie. It was meant as a way to reassure the masses, but it didn't extinguish the feeling of guilt that Marinette had. A few people complained that they wouldn't reveal anything about the magic aspect or why they were chosen so young, but most seemed to understand that the heroes didn't want to risk informing Hawkmoth of magical aspects that the villain wasn't aware of. Incidentally, the information that they gave regarding the collaboration with the police investigation on Hawkmoth had the effect of calming a few worries that the heroes were afraid to work with the police. The chief commissioner was also under fire after they had basically closed the door on the police force offer for therapy. Most people seemed to think that the reason they had rejected the offer was because it might come with strings, which wasn't true, and the heroes were hesitant to work with people they didn't know. Their comments on the reason they had chosen the station and not the headquarters also pleased the people that were angry at the chief commissioner's words over the past week. A lot of people were worried that she and Cat had admitted that the hits from yesterday's Akuma had hurt them, but most assumed that the suits had protected them from the pain, which wasn't totally false, and that they would have stopped if the pain was too much. A few didn't like them being hurt at all, and had suggested that on Saturday's protest, it was confirmed, there should be piñatas in the form of Hawkmoth and Mayura to relieve rage. All in all, it could be considered a success. That went great, Tikki. The small Kwame was finishing a cookie. Of course it did. You and Cat Noir had planned that press conference to the last dot. Still, I was a little nervous. Tikki smiled. It went great. Marinette checks her phone and sees that Alia has been bombarding her phone for the last hour. Marinette sighs. I have to call Alia. Do you think she's going to mention the part-time heroes bit and the break bit? I want her opinion on the matter, but I'm afraid of how she might react. Tikki sits on Marinette's shoulder. She might rant a bit now, but I think that with time she'll come to understand your point of view. Just give it time. She only just found out about the break, and her ideas will be all over the place. Listen before you say anything, and if she's too affected, just let her rant. Tikki tends to give pretty solid advice. She calls Alia. "Girl, where have you been?" "Asleep? I already saw that Ladybug and Cat Noir gave their press conference." Alia groans from the other side of the phone. "Yes, they did. Only you can sleep during the biggest press conference of the year. Anyway, have you seen it?" "A few parts." It was true. She had seen a few parts on TV. "I saw that you asked them a couple questions." "Yeah, they were pretty liberal and willing to answer questions if we didn't ask them personal questions. Which is fair, I guess. This was a professional thing. I was surprised by how they answered my question. I never really considered them wanting a break, you know?" Marinette suppresses a snort. "I know, but it could be good for them. I mean, I get it, girl. Just, where does that leave the part-time heroes?" Alia whispers the last part, and Marinette's heart aches. Ladybug said that they might need to talk to them first. I guess they might also take a break or become full-time heroes while Ladybug and Cat Noir are on vacation? Yeah, maybe. Alia doesn't sound convinced. Marinette decides to take a different approach. I just don't think that now is the time to wonder about that. Hawkmoth and Mayura are still in the picture. After those two are defeated, that question will probably pop out a lot. But now, I think the media is more focused on other things. Alia sighs. You're right. Are you worried about Chloe's reaction of her going full on Chloe? Alia snorts. No, but now that you bring it up, I think that tomorrow we need to be ready for the tantrum she will have. She succeeded in taking the focus off the part-time heroes, which relaxes Alia. After a while, Alia tells her she needs to edit a few things for the news articles on the Lady blog. Marinette gets the impression she is also running out of battery on her phone and takes the opportunity. Before coming home, she and Kat took a lot of photos with civilians throughout the city. She was waiting for Alia to get distracted or busy so she could call her, knowing that it wouldn't be answered. She would take the chance to post the selfie she took with the help of Trix and post it on Instagram. Hopefully, Alia wouldn't be disappointed to lose the chance to talk with Ladybug, which would be the impression that she would get from the missed phone call. It will give Marinette for once the chance of teasing Alia for not picking up the phone. That was a pretty sweet bonus. This concludes Chapter 9 of The Growing Pains of Child Soldiers by Bloodwolf 13. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'm sorry if the audio keeps changing on this. I had to record in so many different pieces because it was so long, and I also kept getting distracted. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. The next one should be up sooner than this one was, and thank you so much for listening.